Before the weight of gravity chained your feet to the ground, you soared, not in dreams, but in reality. Your wings carried you faster than wind, faster than thought. You could rise beyond the clouds in a breath, cross oceans in the time it takes to blink. You stood among blazing beings clothed in light, your voice part of heaven's mighty chorus. You could stand in the heart of a star and not be burned. You could speak, and the very air would obey. We were more than flesh and bone. We were spirit, radiant and unbound. The Bible hints at this forgotten life, a time when we were not mere mortals but angels in the Father's presence. And one day, we will remember. Before mountains had roots, before oceans had shores, before a single star pierced the darkness, you existed. Not crawling, not stumbling, not bound by flesh, but soaring. Your body was not weight and bone, but light and power. You could cut through the skies like lightning, move faster than the wind itself. With a single thought, you could cross the span of heaven's courts. With a single song, you could shake the very foundations of creation. You were not alone. Beside you were countless others, the sons of God, all blazing with the same radiant life. You laughed in the light of the Almighty, each moment drenched in the glory of His presence. The Father knew you then by name. As it is written in Jeremiah 1:5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." You were chosen not after you arrived on earth, but before the foundation of the world. Ephesians 1:4. In that realm there was no fear, no hunger, no pain, only the endless expanse of light and the eternal purpose God had woven into your being. You could ascend above the highest heavens, descend to the lowest depths, and still remain within His sight. You were more than a creation. You were an emissary of the Most High, swift, powerful, holy. Every heartbeat, if such a thing existed in that realm, pulsed with His will. You were not learning to live. You were already alive in its purest form. This was your beginning. This was our beginning. But the story was far from over. If you could remember, if the veil could lift for just one moment, you would see it. The realm of the Father. It is not built from stone or bound by gravity. It is alive. Every beam of light is a living color. Every breath is music. Every horizon is infinite. The ground itself glows with a warmth that is not heat, but the very presence of God. We were His children then, not in metaphor, but in reality. As Hebrews 12:9 declares, He is the Father of spirits. We walked in His courts as sons and daughters, clothed in robes of light that were not given to us. They were us. In the Father's realm, no words were needed. Thought itself was language. With a single look, you could share your entire heart with another spirit. Laughter rang like silver bells across the fields of heaven, and every step felt like a dance in the heart of eternity. Strength flowed through you without limit. You could stand on the edge of the sun and not be burned. You could leap across the breadth of the heavens and arrive before you began. Time, as you know it now, had no hold here. For in His presence, there was only forever. The Father Himself was the center of all. His throne blazed brighter than 1,000 galaxies, yet you could look upon Him without fear, only awe. Every heartbeat of the realm pulsed from Him, and every breath we took was filled with His glory. This was home. This was where we learned joy. This was where we knew who we truly were, until the moment came when He sent us away. Before there was earth, there was music, not the kind that fades or cracks, but a living symphony, woven from light, power, and praise. We were there, gathered in uncountable numbers, our voices filling the vast expanse with sound so pure it made the very air shimmer. The Bible calls us the sons of God who shouted for joy when He laid the foundations of the world, Job 38:4-7. and shouted we did, not in chaos, but in perfect harmony. Every note we sang was an act of creation. Mountains rose with the bass, oceans swelled with the chorus, and stars ignited at the high notes of praise. You were not just an observer, you were part of it. Standing shoulder to shoulder with mighty angels, you sang as God stretched the heavens like a canvas and painted them with galaxies. You saw the first sunrise burst into being, the first river carve its path, the first breath of life stir in the creatures of the deep. And you felt his joy, a joy that rolled like thunder across the halls of eternity. Your voice was not small in that moment. It was powerful, resonating with the authority the Father had placed in you. No choir on earth could match it. Each sound carried weight, shaping what had never existed before. And then came the earth itself, young, flawless, untouched. A jewel hung in the vastness of space, and we knew in our spirits that it was only the beginning. The stage was set, the story about to unfold. We sang, not knowing that one day we would walk upon this very ground, not as angels, but as men. Then it happened. The Father, who had known us before time, spoke a command that would change everything. The Lord forms the spirit of man within him. Zechariah 12:1. Those words were not poetry, they were an assignment. We were to leave the boundless skies of heaven and enter a body, not of light, but of clay. In an instant, wings of glory folded, speed beyond wind slowed to the crawl of mortal steps. Strength that could move mountains was wrapped in fragile flesh. The eternal was placed in the temporary. It was not punishment, it was purpose. The Father was sending us into the story he had prepared before the foundation of the world, to walk, to choose, to overcome. As Ecclesiastes 12:7 says, the spirit would one day return to God, but first, it must journey through life. The descent was unlike anything we had known. From the heights of unending light, we entered the narrow, dim corridors of time. Where once we could be everywhere, now we could only be here. Where once we knew the full harmony of heaven, now we would hear only echoes. We did not fall in sin, we fell into assignment. The earth was waiting for us, yet it would not recognize who we had been. Others would see only skin, but heaven still saw the warrior, the singer, the child of light hidden inside. And so, clothed in mortality, we stepped onto the stage of human history. Every heartbeat was now a countdown, every breath a reminder. This was not our home, but it was here that the greatest battles would be fought. When you awoke in this world, you remembered nothing. No flash of heaven's courts, no memory of the light on the Father's face. Only the cry of a newborn, the embrace of human arms, and the slow unfolding of days. This was the veil. The Father had placed it over your mind, not to erase you, but to protect you. Because if you could remember the full weight of who you once were, the pull of heaven would be too strong, and the purpose on earth might be abandoned. And yet, the echoes were still there. That moment in childhood when you gazed at the stars and felt an ache in your soul, you couldn't explain. That quiet knowing that you were made for more than this. Jesus hinted at it when he said, "Their angels always see the face of my Father in heaven." Matthew 18:10. Could it be that, even here, part of us remains connected to the throne? That a fragment of our heavenly identity still watches, still remembers, still stands before God? Life would try to bury it. The noise, the pain, the weight of earthly living would smother the memory. But destiny has a way of breaking through. Every trial, every miracle, every moment of unexplainable guidance was the Father whispering, "Remember who you are." The day would come when the veil would lift, and you would realize that the battles you face were not random. You were sent, you were chosen, You were trained for them long before you took your first breath, and somewhere deep within, your spirit was already preparing for the moment when the wings would return. Life on Earth is not a stroll through a quiet garden. From the first breath, you were thrust into a battlefield, invisible to the eyes, but blazing in the spirit realm. The same powers you saw cast out of heaven now stalk the earth, seeking to twist, distract, and destroy. But you were not dropped here unprepared. Long before this planet spun in space, the Father had already chosen you, before the foundation of the world, Ephesians 1:4. Every skill, every gift, every instinct from your angelic days was embedded into your spirit. It shows in the way you sense danger before it comes, in the way your heart burns to protect the weak, in the way you can stand against overwhelming odds and refuse to yield. That's not just human courage. That's your ancient training breaking through. The enemy knows who you are, even if you've forgotten. That's why the attacks feel personal, why temptation comes in tailored forms, why some seasons feel like the weight of the world is crushing you. But every trial is sharpening you. Every battle is unlocking what was hidden. Every victory is a reminder. You are not just fighting for survival. You are fighting as one sent from the courts of heaven, carrying an assignment from the King himself. You may be in flesh now, but the spirit inside you still remembers the roar of heaven's armies, the flash of lightning in the Father's eyes, and the authority of his command. And when you fight, it is not just you. All of heaven fights with you. It doesn't happen all at once. The veil, that thin but unbreakable curtain over your memory, begins to tear in moments of deep encounter. Sometimes it's in the stillness of prayer. Sometimes it's in the middle of a storm so fierce you think it will end you. And then, suddenly, there's clarity. You feel the rush of a wind that no one else notices. You hear a voice that speaks without words. You remember, not in detail, but in knowing. You are more than a name on a birth certificate. You are a spirit, born from the Father of spirits himself, Hebrews 12:9. You came from him, and one day you will return to him. In that moment, earthly fear loses its grip. Death is no longer a shadow to dread. It's a doorway home. You realize the enemy's greatest weapon has never been pain or even death. It's amnesia. If he can keep you from remembering your origin, he can keep you from walking in your authority. But once the veil rips, the fire comes back. You begin to walk differently. Not as a beggar pleading for scraps, but as an heir of the kingdom. Your prayers shift from timid whispers to declarations backed by heaven. And sometimes late at night, you'll feel it. That pull toward the sky, that ache in your back as if wings are pressing to break through again. You are waking up, and the world will never be the same. Once you remember, you cannot go back to living small. The world will try to convince you you're just another face in the crowd. But heaven has already written your name among the immortal. Jesus said that in the resurrection, they can no longer die. They are like the angels, children of God. Luke 20:36. That truth doesn't just apply to the afterlife. It starts now. The warrior in you begins to awaken. You feel it in your prayers, which no longer sound like desperation, but like commands issued from the king's court. You sense it in your spirit when you walk into a dark place and light seems to follow you. The enemy feels it too. Doors of oppression begin to slam shut. Chains that have clung to generations before you start breaking at your words. Your life becomes a battlefield where victory after victory is claimed for the kingdom. And in moments of worship, you catch glimpses of your old strength. The way you once soared over oceans, the way your voice joined heaven's thunder, the way you stood side by side with the hosts of angels unafraid. People may not see your armor, but the spirit realm does. To them, you are not fragile flesh. You are still a blazing warrior wrapped in mortal skin. And as you live this way, something shifts. Your life becomes more than survival. It becomes a mission. you start moving like someone who knows exactly why they were sent here, and exactly who sent them. The warrior has returned, and the war is not over. Every warrior is sent for a reason. Before the first mountains were formed, before the oceans were poured into their depths, the Father spoke your purpose into existence. The Lord forms the spirit of man within him. Zechariah 12:1. He did not send you here without a mission, and that mission was written into your spirit like fire in stone. It may have taken years to uncover it. You might have walked through deserts of doubt, storms of loss, and valleys of shadow before the pieces came together. But every moment was part of your training. Every scar was proof you had survived what should have destroyed you. Now the assignment stands clear. It is not just about your survival. It's about the lives tied to your obedience. Every word you speak, every prayer you release, every step you take in faith is pushing back darkness and claiming territory for the kingdom. And just as in the days before the earth was formed, you are not alone. The unseen ranks of heaven still march with you. The angels you once stood beside are now standing beside you again, moving in perfect step with the mission you've been entrusted with. But there is urgency. The time is short, and the world grows darker by the day. The Father has placed you in this generation for a reason, not the one before, not the one after. This is your hour. This is your battle. And when the mission is complete, the call will come, and the journey home will begin. And then, the day comes. The battle is over. The last prayer has been prayed. The last soul you were sent to reach has found their way into the Father's arms. The body grows still, but the spirit, oh, the spirit is free. The dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Ecclesiastes 12:7. You feel it instantly. The weight of flesh falls away. Strength floods back into your being. The same strength you carried before the world began. The wings you'd almost forgotten stretch wide, radiant in light. You lift from the earth with no effort at all, faster than the wind, swifter than the lightning. And then, the throne. The sight you've longed for but could never fully recall. The Father's face, shining like a million suns, yet warm as the gentlest embrace. You are home. And the roar of heaven welcomes you, not as a stranger, but as one of its own returning from a long mission. There are no more tears here, no more fear, no more loss. Only the joy of knowing that the mission was worth every trial, and that the one who sent you is pleased. And as you kneel before the King, he speaks the words that make every wound, every fight, every sacrifice worth it. Well done, my good and faithful servant. This is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of forever. If you're hearing this and something in you stirs, that's because you were never meant to forget who you are. You were created with purpose, sent here with power, and destined to return home in glory. Live every day as if heaven is watching, because it is. Share this with someone who needs to remember their origin, their mission, and their destiny. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next story that awakens your spirit.